gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Wilderness. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Wilderness. Now, this is a sponsored video by Fricks Games. This is also a prototype copy in front of me, so all rules, components, and things like that are subject to change, but this is a current crowdfunding campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned if you'd like to check out this project, because Wilderness is going to be a game all about survival. And before I get into it, I do just want to also let you know that there is going to be a gameplay on the channel, so I am going to go over the game, but if you'd like to see how it plays and how different players interact with each other while playing, there is going to be a gameplay on the channel as well. So in Wilderness, you are playing a survival game. You are trying to make it through the wilderness while trying to balance your hunger, thirst, and exhaustion, because those are the things that you're going to have to deal with if you are out in these different areas. Now, because you're in the wilderness, you're going through all different types of terrain, such as forests and mountains, but you also have things that you're going to encounter, like animals that are going to try to attack you if you get too close. Now, there are also cards that you're going to be able to gain that can either give you a benefit or perhaps do something sneaky up against your opponent, but players are going to be traveling over these different tiles that are going to be flipped over as you get closer to them, and you're going to be going through the course of different days. So there are day cards that are going to track how long that day might last and what might be happening during that day, but players are basically going to go over the course of rounds using their energy points, and they're going to go through these different days trying to get as far as they possibly can through the wilderness while managing those things such as their hunger and their thirst, because when you're thirsty, you're going to have to find water to drink from, and when you're hungry, you're going to have to be in an area that you're able to hunt in to try to find food. But again, as I said, there are animals out in the wilderness as well that are very, very dangerous, so you have to be careful what you're doing, because if you get too close, you could also get hurt. Now, the game that you see in front of you is part way through. So when you start the game, you start over on this tile over here, and you're going to uncover them as you start getting close enough to uncover that tile. So for example, if a player moved to this spot down here, this tile would then be flipped over and placed. So you can see where you don't exactly know what's going to happen or what the terrain is going to be like until players are in those areas. Now, as I mentioned, the terrain is made up of those different terrain types. So you can see, for example, we have our grasslands, our mountains, our forests. We also have our swamps that are a bit dangerous, where you will take an illness card if you go into them, a sickness card. But these are those days that I was talking about. So every day we'll start off by flipping over a new day card, and you'll do whatever's on it. So for example, this one is each player draws one card. Each player decreases their thirst by 2 steps, but lose to exhaustion. So that means that you're going to be less thirsty but more tired on your little track over here, which is where you're tracking those 3 different things. But you can see where this has 4 spots and then a night spot, so this would go over the course of 3 day turns and then a night turn. Whereas the card that was already here, you can see, is sunny day, and this one has triggers that happen on particular days. So the first 2 days have the sun symbol on it. So for this card, again, everyone would draw 1 card, because these primarily give players cards to draw from this deck over here. And then for each of these symbols, all players get +1 energy this turn. Now, I'm going to talk about energy in a minute, but you can see where particular days may have certain things that trigger for the players. Now, to take a look at your player board here, you have your thirst, your hunger, and your exhaustion, and those are all things that are going to be very tricky to maintain. So they're all going to go down by 1 at the end of the round, but depending on where your thirst and your hunger is, your exhaustion will go down even more. So for example, this character here, their thirst is already in this yellow area, meaning at the end of this round, their thirst would go down by 1, their hunger would go down by 1, bringing them into the yellow area, and then their health would go down by 1. But then additionally, because both of these are in the yellow areas, their health will go down another 2 points. So you can see where that can be very, very tricky managing what you need to do, because you need water, you need food, and these are all going to cost you action points to do it, and those action points are tied to your exhaustion. So based on your exhaustion level, the more exhausted you get, the less points that you have, meaning it's going to be harder and harder to get yourself out of that hole. If you need to hunt for food, you need at least 3 action points to be able to do that. So the harder it gets, that may be the only thing that you're doing as you're trying to fix these things that are happening. Now, thirst is going to be something really unique, where you are able to drink water if you are near a water source. So for example, here you can see this river, that if this player were here, as a free action, you are able to drink water, and you can do that on any point in your turn. turn, meaning that if you get there at the end, you can drink water, or you could drink at the beginning and then move away. But water is going to be so important because that's really one of the only ways that you're going to get it. There may be some unique cards in here, but I would not count on them. You really can't hope for a specific thing to trigger when you're drawing these cards, so you're really going to be looking for water on the map. Now for food, you're able to hunt in specific areas. So your little player board here is going to show you that you can hunt for food. So here in like the grasslands or in the forest, you're able to do so. So if we were in this area here and we chose to use that action, it would cost us 3 points, and then we would roll the die. Now that's great. We would have gotten 4 food there. And for other sides, you can either gain different amounts of food, you can potentially fight an animal to get a lot of food but then become lost that turn, or you can draw one of these cards if you roll this side. Now, getting lost is going to be very important in this game because during the night phase, you're not able to move around the way you want to move. You instead potentially could get lost, and when you fight those animals on this die as well when you're hunting, that could also happen. So when you're lost from this, you just become lost and you'll move randomly by spinning this dial here. So you'll spin it and then move in that direction based on the hexes here, and then your turn will immediately end. Now that's if you roll this for that type of being lost, but if you're moving during the night phase, you're actually going to draw these cards here, and they actually have a person up here. So if it is a green, you're able to move the way you wanted to. However, if it's red, that's when you would become lost during the night phase. So it can be a lot trickier to choose to move during the night phase, and I'm going to go over the other actions, but that's a reason why you might choose to do things that aren't movement when nighttime happens. Now, to go over the other actions that players are able to do, as I said, you're basing it on your current exhaustion level, so that will give you a certain number of action points that you're going to set your stamina to, and then you're going to be able to spend it for those things. You are able to usually save 1, but this character here in particular can save 2, so you are able to save some for the next round if you use a particular action, which I'll go over, but otherwise you're going to have the amount you have shown. So we did talk about hunting, and that's going to cost you 3 points. And movement, it's going to depend on where you're moving to. So for the easier areas, such as the desert and the grasslands, it will only cost 2. But to climb up on something like a mountain, it's going to cost you 4 action points. But for things like the forest and the swamplands, it's a mid, so it's going to be 3 instead. So you can see where, depending on where you want to move, it's going to cost you a certain number of points. And additionally, if you want to cross a river, it would be an additional 2. Or if you want to cross a ridge, both of those are going to add to your amount as well. Now, as I said, you can also drink, which is going to be a free action for you, and then you are also able to prepare. So to prepare, you actually need to spend 1 to bank 1 to roll over to the next turn. So that's how you get one of these over there, is that you actually have to have 1 to spend toward the action, but that means that you could potentially have more to spend in a future turn. Now, the final 2 things you're able to do is heal, because that's going to be very, very important. So you are able to rest for just 2 points, and that will heal you 1 health, or you can spend all of your points, no matter what, on your turn. You're spending your entire turn, besides perhaps drinking water, to heal 5 health. So you can heal 5 exhaustion points if you choose to sleep. Now, at the beginning of the game, players are going to have multiple characters that they're able to choose from. So you have characters that have slightly different statistics, maybe different things going on. Some of them are better at or worse at different things. As I noted, Laura is able to hold over more stamina for future rounds, but here you can see just all of the different characters that they have planned for the game. So there are a lot that you're able to play with, and when you start the game, you are going to have a shipwreck card. So you're going to have a choice from 2, unless you have someone with a special ability that lets you have more. You're going to have 2 of these shipwreck cards to choose from, and they kind of give you an item that adds to your game. So you have your special ability and you have these items, and they are also going to be drawing the event cards. Now, the event cards are going to be double-sided, and you can choose which side you want to use. So it's a one-time use, and you're only using 1 of the abilities, but it kind of gives you flexibility that you can either use an ability in one way or a different way. So to take a look at some of those cards over here, I'm just going to flip this over to show you some of them, but for example, there's there's the water bag. When next to water, place in front of you, discard at any time to drink 2 water. So that's something that you're able to add to your thirst to make your thirst better. But if you chose to play the bottom instead, it's arduous terrain. Each movement costs +1 this turn. So this is one that you would play on your opponent instead, making it even harder for them to move around because their movement cost is going to be higher. Now, next we have here Primitive Spear. You can play a stamina to place this card in front of you, and you may re-roll the animal die once per attack. So that's something that's going to allow you to re-roll once you have the spear in front of you. However, you could choose to play the deer side instead, which is at the start of your turn, fully restore your hunger, then you are lost. So that can be really, really huge if your hunger is very low, because as you move into these lower areas, it's actually costing you more exhaustion when you're that low at the end of every round. So to restore your hunger completely toward the end of the game could be absolutely huge. Now, another example here is a bird's nest, where that's just going to make your starvate, your hunger, a bit better. Or we have a treacherous mountain. A player in the mountain area loses 3 of their action points. So you can see where these cards can really affect different things that are going on, either for yourself or your opponent. Some of them can make your opponent lost when they choose to move, and some of them can even cancel an event card. So there are very few, but you can even perhaps be able to cancel an event card that an opponent is playing against you. The pacing of Wilderness is going to be very intuitive because players are just going to go back and forth taking turns throughout these different day cards, and new day cards are always going to come out, giving players a little bit more cards and sometimes different effects that happen, either good or bad, but either way, it's moving the game forward. And when players are taking their turns, they already know how much energy they're going to have for the next turn, so you're going to be able to start to plan ahead a little bit what you're able to do, and where everything has a pretty high energy cost for everything that you're trying to get done, you're not really able to do a ton of things in one turn. So it's one of those puzzles where you're really trying to figure out the layer of how you want to do things and what is the best possible combination, because every single action point can really count, where it can make a huge difference what you choose to do when and the pacing of what you're doing in the game. Even becoming lost can be really, really huge and set players back, or being attacked when all of a sudden their health gets hit. Now, the event cards can also really interrupt opponents, where some of them can do some very crazy things. There are cards that are good for you that you can use for yourself, but there are some that are really going to affect your opponents as well. So there's just a lot of surprises that happen in the game, but that being said, you can almost predict a lot of the things that you're trying to do because enough is on the board that you're able to see. And the biggest thing about the game is that it truly is a survival game. Everything is going to be cascading, where your thirst and your hunger will go down, and then your exhaustion, but depending on where your thirst or hunger are, your exhaustion is going to go down more and more, and it's all just going to cascade. So you really have to keep an eye on juggling everything that you're trying to do, and it really does simulate feeling like a scramble, that you're just trying to get through this wilderness that constantly keeps hurting you, trying to make it out alive. So if you'd like to see exactly what that looks like, you can check out the gameplay on the channel, and you can check out the link down below for the current campaign. This has been a preview of Wilderness. I've been Professor Meg. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!